like we've got a few people missing here today, Senator. All right, well, we'll be ready to come to order as soon as the rest of everybody else decides to come to work today, Senator.
It was a slow day at the Capitol as both chambers get over their crossover hangover from Friday night. Good evening and welcome to Lawmakers. I'm Donna Lowry in Atlanta. It's day 29 of the legislative session, and now that bills have crossed over from one chamber to the other, the process of looking at legislation approved on the other side of the building begins. Tonight on the show, we'll talk about some of that legislation, including education bills on financial literacy and school discipline. We will also look at legislation focused on the homeless population in Georgia and a bill that a legislator who recently passed championed for years. It finally made it out of one chamber. But first, Capitol correspondent Sarah Callis offers a wrap-up of the day under the Gold Dome.
Hi, Donna. It was a quiet day at the Capitol, perhaps a bit of crossover day hangover, as both chambers recovered from their late night on Friday.
The Senate started at 1 p.m. with no legislation on their rules calendar.
We'll be ready to come to order as soon as the rest of everybody else decides to come to work today, Senator.
And began with the usual daily business, such as points of personal privilege.
Gas prices soar in Georgia following Israeli strikes on Iranian oil. This was just today in the headlines. Gas prices rising across Georgia as Middle East tensions push oil prices past $100 today. This was just for today. And as I brought to your attention a week ago, Atlanta gas prices rise amid Iran conflict, and they'll likely rise even more.
Democrat Nikki Merritt took to the well to request that Governor Brian Kemp suspends the state's fuel tax due to the armed conflict with Iran.
I'm asking today of Governor Kemp, and we have done this before, to suspend the state gas tax again so that we can give families immediate relief as prices continue to surge, and they will continue to surge as long as this war keeps going on.
And a tribute to the veterans of the Vietnam War by someone who experienced it firsthand.
We should never forget the men and women who fought for our country, and especially the Vietnam War. The Vietnam War was the first time that Marines and sailors and airmen and sailors came back home to these shores and were ignored or even put down by our own members here in the citizenry of our country. When I got back from Vietnam the last time, was told to take your uniform off and don't wear it because you would be met with hostility out in San Francisco after I landed at Treasure Island the last time.
The tribute included the Chamber's Sergeant-at-Arms, Robert Brown, who also fought in Vietnam. The Senate then voted on a House substitution to a bill that was passed last year, SB 179. The bill requires that the transcripts and disciplinary records of a student switching schools be transferred to the new school within 5 days. Before sine die last year, the House added a clause that would require computer science classes be taught as a core class by 2031. Since the bill didn't make its way back before the deadline, the bill's author amended it again.
This language has to do with civics organizations, the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, the Boys and Girls Club of America, and then also there's the Future Farmers of America, the American Legion, and the Red Cross and other similar organizations. This would allow them access to schools to teach civics, to promote their organization.
The new version was passed 48-3 and was again sent back to the House. It was a sleepy day in the House as well. They started at 1 p.m. and members held a moment of silence for the 7 U.S. troops killed in the Middle East since the start of U.S. strikes.
Let's also remember today in our prayers ongoing the families of the loved ones of the service members that were killed overseas. 7 of them at this point, so let's keep them in our prayers and their families as well, and as we remember their service to our country.
Members took up one measure, H.R. 948, which would create a study committee on pharmacy benefit managers and consumer access to prescription medicine.
After playing years of whack-a-mole with the pharmacy benefit managers, I thought it's just about time that we study the issue and got into it a little bit. We're going to see if we can find out exactly what employers are being billed versus what they're paying on these self-insurance plans. We're going to look a little bit into reverse engineering so that we can get to the bottom of where things are going and how that affects your own taxpayers' health insurance plans and their rates.
It passed unanimously. Also today, lawmakers acknowledged contributions women have made to Georgia for International Women's Day, which fell on Sunday this year.
It's important to us to make sure that a lot of you as unsung heroes get your due, right? So many of you work so hard with your head down, and people don't just act as if that's what you're supposed to do.
Fulton County District Attorney Fonnie Willis also spoke at the event and took the opportunity to blast the Republican State Senate investigation into her office and her indictment against President Donald Trump.
See, they got to keep my name in their mouth for people to even know who they are. See, these want-to-be leaders, they have no ideas for Georgians, no plans to make Georgians' lives better. They want to show you that they are powerful and strong by coming after me. Let me tell you what they ended up showing in December. That they're stupid, that they're weak.
If the legislators need a bit of pick-me-up today, they can walk outside and hit up the visiting varsity food truck for a chili dog and frosted orange before heading over to the James Sloppy Floyd building across the street from the Capitol to check out the Capitol Art exhibit. The artwork comes from students from across the state and is presented by the Georgia Art Education Association.
It's so important for our students to have their artwork here at the Capitol because they have a chance to show their work to legislators so that they can see how important arts education is in our schools. It's a visual for the legislators, and they get to meet these students.
Governor Kemp may tour the exhibit later this week.
The pace is expected to pick up again tomorrow on day 30 as the countdown to the final days of this year's session starts. That's my Capitol Report. Donna?
Thanks, Sarah. In this segment, we take you into Georgia schools to learn more about legislation to help improve the lives of students and teachers. Joining me is Republican Senator Chuck Payne of Dalton. He chairs the Senate Committee on Veterans, Military, and Homeland Security. He is vice chair of both the Education and Youth and Science and Technology Committees. Also here is Democratic Representative Miriam Paris of Macon. Her committees include Appropriations, Education, and Economic Development and Tourism. Welcome to Lawmakers to both of you.
Thank
First
you.
timers here.
Yes, we are.
Well, I'm
Thank
going to
you
make
so
you feel
much.
good. You'll want to come back, okay? So we're going to start with you, Chairman Payne. SB 557 says student discipline policies can no longer be waived by school systems. So let's talk about the problems that led to this legislation.
Well, the problems are school climate ratings and understanding that, this discipline is education. And we're neglecting that discipline. I was a juvenile probation officer for 30 years, and the behavior of kids is not always systemic of who they are or their ability to learn. And so it's just to make sure that we're giving these kids that have those behavioral issues or had them in the past, or you're not plagued in the classroom, and be able to advance their education.
Yeah, because of your background, you felt some kind of personal. This was personal for you, making sure you take care of these kids so they don't end up with you as a juvenile.
Well, for 30 years as a state juvenile probation officer, I just literally had a passion for kids, no matter, and understanding where they came from. And I was always the one that would, if someone's angry, I would always look for the thorn in the paw. What's causing this? Where is it coming from? And a lot of those kids, if you start looking at their background and you start looking where they've come from, it's just a cry out for help. And so we should not hold those when they have behavioral issues against them in their climate rating for the schools.
Okay, we'll get into details in a second. Representative Paris, you are a co-sponsor of a bill, and it's Chairman Bill Yurda's bill, but it is a bill that passed on crossover day that would expand financial literacy education in Georgia. So what led to that bill?
So, a lot of our ideas come from the grassroots, right? A lot of times you have citizens that come up and speak to us about various bills, things that they feel like need to happen in Georgia. And one of my dear friends said to me, you know what, I think we need financial literacy in the schools. The economy is changing, currency is changing at a rapid rate. children don't see us spending money cash. They see cards, they see phones and such. And so I just really thought that it was a great idea. And I introduced HB 674 last year. We did get a hearing on it, but we didn't get, get to crossover day. So when I spoke with Chairman Irwin, who's the education chair, he spoke to me about Chairman Yurta's bill, which was HB 1114. And he asked that we merge the two because Chairman Yurta's bill was dealing with financial literacy for high schoolers. But I felt like we need to get to children when they're very young, right? Because if you talk to a little 5-year-old and you've got 6 pennies in one hand and a dime in another hand, you ask them, which one do you want? They're going to say the 6 pennies, right?
Right.
Because they don't know that a dime is 2 nickels, it's 10 pennies and such. So I just really thought that it would be something that we could do for the children to make it where their financial lives would be much easier.
And you're right, they don't see coins meant much at
Right,
all.
right.
And pretty soon they won't even know what pennies are.
That's right, they will not.
They won't have a clue what they are.
Right.
It's amazing to think about that.
Yes.
All right, Chairman Payne, let's get back to 557, which would allow teachers or school employees who are victims of physical violence by a student or a parent to transfer to another school in the district. So tell us about this.
Yeah, it's making sure that if a teacher's been assaulted or threatened in the classroom, that if they feel like it's to the point where they feel unsafe and they should not be in an unsafe work environment, that allows them the opportunity to transfer or change locations without any penalties or being held against them for leaving that classroom.
It's a shame it's at that point. Yeah.
It really is, but at the same time, like I said, a lot of these kids, they're still kids. And that's why I've always stressed that discipline is education. And that's the one element that I, as a juvenile probation officer, I told people I was not a formal educator, but I was an educator. My discipline that I was teaching for 30 years was the cornerstone of all education, and that's self-discipline.
Yeah. So your bill has passed over into the House. Or where is it right now?
Right now, the bill is still in committee.
Still in committee.
And so but it didn't make it out before crossover, but we're hoping to maybe look at somewhere we can move it down the line.
We're always talking about how these bills will show up somewhere else. So
Yes, ma'am.
we'll keep up with that one.
That's
All right.
the sausage making
That's the sausage making. Yes, sir. Let's talk about your bill, what it specifically would do when it comes to financial literacy.
So, like I said, Chairman Yurta's bill was dealing with from 8th grade to 12th. And I really felt like we needed to expand that or widen the scope of it, right? Starting in 1st grade. However, we were able to get kindergarten.
Wow.
Yeah, and match all the way up to his 8th grade bill. So now it would go from kindergarten throughout high school. They'll be learning about financial literacy. You know, it's better when we teach a man to fish than to give him one, right? So for me, if I had had the financial literacy taught to me when I was young, I think I'd be doing a lot of different things right now. I'm grateful for what I'm doing right now, don't get me wrong, but it's just important, money, when you think about money, you think about the word currency, that's something that's always moving. And if we don't have a clear understanding of that, then this is what runs people into financial ruin, right? It runs them into bankruptcy. It runs them into just all kinds of various negative situations within their family. One of the main reasons for divorce is finances and the misplacement of those things, So I really feel like it's an important bill for generations to come. We want them to have a better shot at life than we've had, and I'm thinking that financial literacy is a big part of that.
It'll be lifelong learning for them.
Yes.
There's things they'll keep with them. Well, thank you for that. Well, Chairman Payne, in the Senate, you're carrying a bill that would put 17-year-olds in the juvenile court system, but this is a bill that passed in the House, and you're carrying it in the House. On behalf of the late Representative Mandy Ballinger, who passed away last year. And I spoke to Representative Camp earlier today, who is actually sponsoring this bill. So let's hear from her.
HB 1061 is the Mandy Ballinger Act, and what it does is it creates the organizational committee required to raising the age. So 17-year-olds can be processed in the juvenile court system for non-violent offenses. So that's pretty much what the whole bill does. We haven't changed any code sections yet because there are a lot of mechanics. Transportation is a mechanic we've got to work out. Do we have capacity at our youth detention centers? Do we have the right programs in place for 17-year-olds as far as job training or getting their GEDs? And also kind of retooling the way that we've done it for a long time. But this is the way it's done in 45 other states successfully, and I'm looking forward to Georgia being the 46th.
She did fight for it for a long time. What was different this year?
Well, this year I think just the name. I think it made a big difference to people knowing how much it meant to Chairman Ballinger. But I think separating out the code change and the organizational aspect, we were able to get a number of organizations on board, or at least neutral, that in the past had been objectionable. And I think that helped a great deal. We have a wonderful sponsor that's going to be carrying it in the Senate. I have full faith that Chairman Payne is going to get it through judiciary. So I'm feeling very.
Well, we want to thank Representative Beth Camp for that, because she really had a personal relationship also with Representative Mandy Ballinger. So tell us a little bit more about the bill.
Well, this bill it's a great bill because it establishes 12 parameter entities in state government and in the courts and education that basically gives them a date just to get it done by, and gets those 12 entities to sit down and look at how we can make this successful in the transition from moving these kids. And if I can talk just a little bit about why it's important, it's because for 30 years as a juvenile probation officer, these 17-year-olds that are getting prosecuted and charged in Superior Court, when they're really not of age to have full understanding of the law and what their choices have been, and we're prosecuting these kids, and it's something that's on their record forever. And just, and to me, it's just giving these kids the opportunity to understand that they're not fully developed 17 years old. And my case in point is that is, I tell you 17-year-olds, if you get charged with a crime at 17, you get your court date and you will stand before a jury of your peers. No, it's not a jury of your peers, because you're not old enough to serve on that jury. And therein lies the reason why those kids should not be prosecuted as adults, because they're not old enough of age to know the consequences of their choices.
Wow. So when you say that a group has to get together, that was one of the tough things that Representative Ballinger had, trying to get all the different resources that help these these children. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, well, if I can just run over the list.
Yeah.
It's the chairperson of the House Committee on Judiciary Juvenile, the chairperson of the Senate Judiciary Committee, the commissioner of the Juvenile Justice or his or her designee, the president of the Georgia Sheriff's Association, the executive director of the Administrative Office of the Courts, the executive director of the Prosecuting Attorneys Council, the executive director of the Georgia Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers, the executive director of the Criminal Justice Coordinator Council, the director of the Governor's Office of Planning and Budget, the president of the Council of Juvenile Court Judges, and the executive director of the Association of County Commissioners of Georgia. And it's just to bring those entities to the table and see, what can we do to keep these kids from, especially those minor that are not major. You still have the what we call the 7 deadly sins, the ones that are anybody over the age of 13 is going to be charged and prosecuted as an adult. But at least this gives the opportunity to take those minor ones back off and pull them back into the juvenile court, so we're not really giving these kids a record before they've even gotten out of the gate.
Yeah, so this is finally a chance. And it was unanimous. You voted for this in the House.
I did vote for it. I thought that the bill was hitting all of the right notes. It takes into account the nonviolent crimes. And when you think about 17-year-olds, their brains have not even fully developed at that point to make critical decisions, right? And so it's somewhat unjust of us to hold them to that high of a standard. They are children, and they are still being very impressed by their peers, and we need to take those things into account before we just send them, down the road that will eventually prove to be more detriment to them than it would good.
Yeah, I think the main thing is what you said about them not being able to have a jury of their peers because that young
there's
they're
a
not on
reason they're
jury.
not of age to serve on that jury, and that is the very same reason they're not of age to know the consequences of their choices and decisions.
Okay, well, we will be keeping up with this bill and let people know. Thank you both for coming.
Thank you.
You made it
Having
through
us
it,
here.
huh? It was okay.
wow.
All righty.
Yeah.
Coming up, we'll talk about legislation dealing with homelessness and another piece of legislation dealing with using lyrics and other creative expression as evidence in trials. A member of the Georgia House joins us when Lawmakers returns. Stay with us.
Georgia Farm Bureau, a grassroots organization dedicated to preserving Georgia agriculture. Farm Bureau advocates for all Georgia farmers at the state capitol during the session and year-round. Georgia Farm Bureau, the voice of Georgia farmers.
Hi, I'm Burt Wesley Huffman, joining you from the set of Lawmakers, now in its 56th season covering the Georgia legislative session. You know, community and collaboration are foundational to our work, and we're honored to bring those concepts together around the issues and stories that matter to you. Your engagement powers our ability to create trusted programming that encourages curiosity and conversation with Georgia in focus. It's all here for you, so please support it now with your generous gift at gpb.org/give.
It's not a country thing or a city thing, but it is a get the crew together thing. It's not a soul music thing or a folk music thing, but it is a finding your new favorite local band thing. It's not a Yellow Jacket thing or a Bulldog thing, but it is a Football Fridays thing that brings every fan to their feet. Tune in to GPB. It's a Georgia thing.
We came across this intriguing story.
Things are starting to get going.
Are you prepared?
It is a golden opportunity.
It's not over. It will be all that you've dreamed of.
Welcome back to Lawmakers. I'm Donna Lowry. One of our topics tonight is homelessness. Here is some background on Georgia's unhoused population. The National Alliance to End Homelessness reports more than 12,000 Georgians experience homelessness on any given night. The number went up nearly 21% between 2017 and 2023. The Georgia Department of Audits and Accounts says subpopulations of the homeless include individuals with mental health, families with children, victims of domestic violence, veterans, and youth. Most homeless individuals are concentrated in metro areas, especially around Atlanta through rural counties. They also have high per capita homelessness rates. Well, joining us to discuss that topic and more is Republican Representative Kasey Carpenter of Dalton. He chairs the House Creative Arts and Entertainment Committee. He's Vice Chairman of Appropriations and Secretary of the Higher Education Committee. Welcome to Lawmakers again. Thanks for joining us.
Always a pleasure to be here with you.
So let's start with your bill on homelessness. So what led you to talk about this? And you're from the Dalton area. Is that an issue there?
We do have an issue. I think a lot of places have seen, I think looking at your numbers online, as rents have risen crazy across the state and the nation, this is just a big problem. And so, yes, it's obviously a huge problem in the metro area around the Capitol. But my kids are in Athens at UGA. They have a problem as well. So it's a statewide issue. And the cost of living inflation has driven a lot of folks to the streets, unfortunately.
Yeah, so I heard you talking at the hearing about this. You're on appropriations, and you talked about that. That's when you really learned a lot about you got some of the insight into all of this.
Yeah, and so what really threw the red flag up was last year, I think in September, the state ran out of federal money that was allocated to the state through DCA to prevent homelessness. And so there was no way, there was no mechanism, and there was no money to backfill the prevention side of it. I know you guys have talked about the budget this year, and there is money in there for homelessness. There was $40 million in it and another 10 for veterans in the supplemental budget, but there's still no money in it for prevention. And I'm a big believer that you get much better bang for your buck on the front side, dealing with an issue before it happens, especially in the realm of dealing with families and kids and unstable households.
Yeah, so this bill is about prevention. So
That's
talk
right.
about it a little bit.
Yeah, it creates a mechanism under DCA under the Housing Trust Fund to address it and to kind of fill in where the feds had left off, if you will. And so it just provides us a mechanism to do that.
And when you say,
and basically they would just go into the programs that most people already know in their own communities that address this issue and issue grants to those communities. And a lot of the conversation is making sure that the locals have skin in the game, the private sector has skin in the game, so you can really stretch those dollars, because we know there's not enough money out there to fix this issue.
Yeah, when you say Department of, the DCA is the Department of Community Development,
That's right.
Community Affairs, I guess.
Yes, ma'am.
So,
and that's who received the fund in the amended budget for homelessness.
So there's a pot that money is given to different communities based on their needs.
That's right. And so the money that's there now is to get people off the street. My bill discusses catching it before they end up on the street.
In
right.
what
So
ways?
so grant money. Let's say, and a lot of people do this in their own world. Like in my business, I have some people that need to borrow $100 so they can pay their rent, so they don't get evicted. Stuff like that. And so you can spend $100 or $200 or $300 on the front side to keep people in their housing, or we can wait till they get evicted, and then it's $2,000 or $3,000 to get them off the street or more. And then the mental anguish of the mental health of leaving the home and living on the street. So if we can get it on the front side, it's a whole lot cheaper for society to do it.
So what is the difference between getting a little bit of money to keep you where you are as opposed to having them end up getting
And the reality is the apartment association landlords, they want something like, we had a lady come to committee and talk about that she runs an apartment complex down in Clayton County, and they have a fund set up for that. And they've shown over time that it actually works better for their revenue and their profit if they run this program.
Okay. I want to get something else in. You are also sponsor of the bill that would prevent prosecutors from using lyrics or other artistic expressions as evidence in trials, and you filed this after the trial of rapper Young Thug in Fulton County. Prosecutors used his lyrics as evidence of criminal wrongdoing. In the end, he pled guilty to a lesser charge. But talk about that bill a bit.
Yeah, it got held up in the in-house rules again. I'm not sure if it'll get out, but as a big fan of country music growing up, loved Johnny Cash, loved Willie Nelson. They said a lot of things that could be used against him in court had they been arrested. So it was just about allowing artists to be creative, express themselves, not use it against them, and making sure that if you're going to present it as evidence, you present it before the jury's there to make sure that it's okay to use in front of the jury, so you don't taint the jury. So
what has the response been? I mean, you just said you're still working to move it along.
Yeah, I mean, it's been getting hung up, but that's, that happens. That happens a lot of my legislation, actually.
No, I don't think that happens to a lot of.
Yes, it does. No doubt about it. That's all right. I mean, there's still good conversations to have, right?
Right.
It's bipartisan stuff. The First Amendment rights should be for everybody. So, yeah, I mean, I enjoy carrying tough stuff.
Yeah, and so you've been doing this for what, 3 or 4 years?
Couple
two
years.
terms
Yeah,
that you've been trying to get this through.
And people are still making rap albums and making music and doing creative dance, whatever.
Yeah. So. How was crossover day for you?
It was good. It was a long day, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was a long day. We had some stuff that we left on the, I say we left a little meat on the bone, but it happens sometimes. But we're working hard. I mean, we really are. It's just a real battle out there right now.
It's almost over, too.
Can't wait. No.
Right.
Ready to get home, start cooking.
All right, then. He's in the restaurant business, for those who don't know. Okay, that does it today for Lawmakers. We'll be back tomorrow on day 30 with a show devoted to AI, the legislation that falls all under artificial intelligence and technology. And we'll have a video of the kickball tournament that the House versus the Senate that took place today. So have a good night.
We won, baby.